In this lesson, we're going to take a look at typography. When choosing a font face, you want to make sure it looks great on body text because that's the most common type of text on most devices. So when you go to select a font, you need to make sure it looks good for body text before you select it. So there are 4 types of fonts. There is serif, sans serif, scripts, and decorative. For UI UX design, we're going to stick to sans serif and serif because this looks the best for that type of design. First off, serif fonts. These serif fonts have little details on the ends of the characters, as you can see in this example. They're most commonly found in books, magazines, and newspapers. Sans serif fonts. These, on the other hand, do not have the small details. They appear cleaner and more modern because of this, and they overall look better on screens because of the simplicity of the line work in the font. So when you start to use typography, it's going to be tempting to combine a bunch of fonts together and try to be creative with it, but I'm going to suggest again to stick to one font. Most typefaces today have many styles, and so there is no other need for fonts. If you look at the Proxima Nova, these are just a few that come in Proxima Nova's font face. When picking a font, you want to make sure you at least have the regular, italic, bold, and bold italic versions of a font available. So when you're designing, you are not limited and you have all 4 of the main used font styles. So now I have some suggestions for you guys when you want to select some fonts. First off is San Francisco. This one's very commonly used with Apple. It is free to use, but you have to have a license when you want to use it on commercial projects. Next up is my personal favorite, which is Proxima Nova. I got this through Typekit, and if you have an Adobe CC membership, it is free. Next is Roboto, and this is from Google, and you can get this one for free. Carla is a paid font, and I'm pretty sure Laura is as well. But one you'll probably know is Helvetica. This is one of the most popular fonts to use just because it looks really good and it's on most of your machines today. All right, so when you want to look for these fonts and you want to start downloading some fonts, 2 of the best places are Typekit. Again, this is with Adobe Creative Cloud, and then just Google Font. These are 2 really great places to find free fonts, but if you want to find a particular font, most likely just Google it. When choosing fonts, I wouldn't just go out and buy a bunch because they can get pricey, so I would try to find the best free ones you can. So next up is font sizes. These are the most common sizes you'll see on devices. So for body, 16 pixels is usually the most common through desktop, tablet, and phone. For the headings, it's a little bit different. It's depending on the device you're on. So if you're on desktop, it can be a little bit larger. If you're on the phone, it can be a little bit smaller. So anywhere from 32 pixels to 48 pixels is a good starting place. Now with all these font recommendations, you can do whatever you want. You just need to think about readability. So for your H2, it's just a little bit smaller than the H1s. So you're going from 36 pixels all the way down to 26 on the phone screen. Also wanted to show you Apple's. This is Apple's large default font. You can see that their sizing is very similar, but it's a little bit different. So you don't have to use exactly those sizes. You can do whatever you want. You just need to make sure you're in good ranges for readability. So for body, I would say around 16, 17 pixels, you should be just fine. For headings, around 32, 34, or something like a phone screen. And then of course, making that a little bit larger for the other devices. So next up is line height, and this is the vertical distance between lines of text. As you can see here, this paragraph is really hard to read because the font is so close together. There is no space in between here. If we just adjust that and add a little bit of line height spacing, this is just a lot easier to read and it looks better on the screen. Lastly, line length. Now this is important for readability. You don't want your lines to be too long or too short so that people can actually read them and follow along in the design. So I recommend 45 to 90 characters in length. That's a good range for UI UX design. So that is it for typography. That's a great overview of the basics of typography. Again, I recommend checking out Typekit or Google Font for some great fonts. That's it for this lesson. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.